Hi guys, this is Tablet-News.com and I'm here with the Samsung Galaxy Tab S2, the 9.7-inch version. We've already previewed it for you. This is a test unit, that's why we didn't unbox it. So this is the Galaxy Tab S2 in the bigger version. There's also an 8-inch model out there, and guess what? This is the thinnest tablet in the world. It was launched in September this year and it measured only 5.6 millimeters in thickness. This test unit is codenamed SMT810X and is the Wi-Fi version of the slate. There's also an LTE one, and this one is priced at $400 on Amazon. It's a temporary object, offer, because before it was priced at $500, so $400 must be some kind of reduction. It's been a while since I last tested a 10-inch tablet, and this 9.7-incher is surprisingly light and thin. It's supposed to be an iPad Air 2 rival, and it's an ultra slim slate that measures 5.6 millimeters in thickness and it weighs 389 grams. It's actually slimmer than the iPad Air 2 that measures 6.1 millimeters in thickness, and also slimmer than the Xperia Z4 tablet, also with a waistline of 6.1 millimeters. Other things worth mentioning here is the fact that the Samsung Galaxy Tab S 10.5, the predecessor, measured 6.6 millimeters, so yes, this model is also slimmer than its predecessor. Meanwhile, the iPad Air 2 weighs 437 grams, which is 48 grams more than the current model you're seeing right here. It's very easy to hold with a single hand, so if you plan to do some e-reading and things like that, if you plan on checking out Flipboard, for example, or the newspapers, you'll be happy to use it with a single hand without problems. Obviously, you can also use it with two hands without feeling any strain after long hours of usage. This model is rather portrait oriented, as shown by the position of the home button, and as you can see right here. It has an excellent grip, courtesy of the back that's made of a soft touch plastic that feels a bit like rubber. This tablet has a solid build. You can see we got a metal frame shining in here, and the same metal frame is kind of prone to chipping, so rest assured you don't hit this metal frame with objects like furniture, for example. Other than that, I have to say that the predecessor, the Tab S 10.5, was landscape oriented, so this one is portrait oriented. So let's see the design elements. Up front, we got the front camera, we got the sensors here, big bezels that are necessary to grip the tablet and hold it better for gaming or videos. Then we got the home button with fingerprint scanner, capacitive buttons, back and recents, and we move to the back. Main camera that's slightly protruding, and these two little dimples here, this one and this one, that are used to attach various accessories. At the top we got nothing at all, but at the bottom we got the audio jack, the two speakers, this one and this one, and the micro USB port. Now on the left side, once again, nada, and on the right side we got the power button and volume buttons that are pretty slim and offer good feedback. And here you can find the micro SD card slot that can be accessed with a small metal accessory, small metal pin, for example. Okay, so this is a very comfy tablet, ultra slim. There aren't many like it, and one of the advantages in the upcoming winter is the fact that this model does not get cold like the iPads. So very good design, especially for a big model. And if you're wondering about the color choice, you can buy this slate in white, gold or black, just like the one we're testing right here. Now as far as the hardware is concerned, we're dealing here with a 9.7-inch Super AMOLED screen with a resolution that's 2048 over 1536 pixels. The processor inside the slate is an octa-core Exynos 540-3, and this octa-core has 4 cores of the Cortex A57 kind, clocked at 1.9 GHz, and 4 cores of the Cortex A53 kind, clocked at 1.3 GHz. The GPU is the Mali T760 MP6, so that's a mouthful. Other than that, we got the storage that's 32 or 64 gigabytes plus the micro SD, offering you an extra 128 gigabytes. And then the RAM, 3 gigabytes of RAM, and the cameras, 2.1 megapixel at the front, 8 megapixel at the back. And on the connectivity side, we got Wi-Fi 802.11 with very generous options, so Wi-Fi 802.11a, B, G, and AC with MIMO, Bluetooth 4.1, micro USB 2.0, GPS and GLONASS, and MHL 2.0 plus Wi-Fi Direct. However, there is no NFC and there is no infrared. The sensors offered here include the accelerometer, fingerprint scanner, gyroscope, geomagnetic sensor, Hall sensor and RGB sensor. Finally, the specs list includes those two speakers at the bottom. Now, as far as the battery is concerned, it's a lithium-ion unit with a capacity of 5870 mAh or 22.3 Wh. On paper, it should provide you with 109 hours of music, which sounds crazy, but it's the truth that Samsung promises. Also 12 hours of video or 8 hours of internet. I should mention that the capacity of the battery is much lower than the one of the Tab S 10.5. That one had a capacity of 7900 mAh and this one 5870 mAh. The iPad Air 2 offered about 7340 mAh, so it's lower than that one as well. Okay, so we did our usual test that involves HD video playback in a loop with Wi-Fi on and brightness at 200 lux, and we achieved 10 hours and 45 minutes of playback, which is very good for this slate, especially since it's so slim. We beat the Samsung Galaxy Tab A 9.7 that scored 10 hours and 13 minutes, the Asus Transformer Book T100 Qi that scored 10 hours, and the AllView Viva Q10 Pro with its 7 hours and 49 minutes. Still, we got surpassed by other models like the iPad Air 2 with its 11 hours and 13 minutes, also the iPad Air 11 hours, and the Galaxy Tab S 8.4 13 hours and 32 minutes. It's good, but not fantastic. As you can see, we also did a PC Mark test, which simulates continuous usage, and here we scored 7 hours and 15 minutes. In this test, we beat the Nokia N1 with its 7 hours, the Asus ZenPad S 8.0 with its 4 hours and 59 minutes, and the Asus ZenPad 7.0 with its 4 hours and 19 minutes. Yes, I know that the diagonals are different, excuse me. However, this model is almost a 10-incher and we don't get to test big tablets very often. So we beat those three models, but we scored surprisingly below the Samsung Galaxy Tab A 9.7 that had 13 hours and 9 minutes, very impressive, and the Galaxy Tab S 10.5 with its 7 hours and 19 minutes, not a huge difference as you can see. Overall, the work time could be better, especially since the Galaxy Tab A almost scored double, so that's a warning sign. Okay, also about the battery, this model is able to charge in 4 hours and 20 minutes, which is long, even if it pays off by offering good time of playback. Still, it charges faster than the Galaxy Tab A 9.7. That one is able to charge, it charges faster than the AllView Viva Q10 Pro that charges in a mind-blowing 7 hours and 45 minutes. However, it charges slower than the Galaxy Tab A 9.7 that requires 4 hours, so this one 4 hours and 20, and the Galaxy Tab A 9.7 4 hours. Meanwhile, it also charges harder than the iPad Air 2, 3 hours and 40 minutes. Another point of comparison, well, we got the Asus Transformer Book T100 Qi charging in 3 hours and 40 minutes, so it can do better. Now we go to the settings area, check out the battery options. So battery is here, we got power saving mode that's set to off right now, and when activated, you can either activate it right now or at a certain percentage, and what it does, it limits the CPU performance, reduces frame rate and brightness, and that's about it. So also reduces the time when notifications are received. Then we got the special ultra power saving mode that offers you a grayscale interface, turns off Bluetooth, and only accesses the essential applications. I have to mention that the predecessor of this model was very easily able to achieve around 13 or 14 or even 15 hours of video playback, so this doesn't exactly improve the time of the predecessor, but still I would say that 10 hours is a good value. However, the work time could use some, let's say, work. Now as far as the acoustics go, we got these two speakers here, and let's see the typical music player. It's typical for those who've seen TouchWiz before, and in the more section you can find these sound alike options with these two knobs for extra treble or extra bass, extra vocal or extra instruments, the equalizer that can be set to normal, auto, pop, classic, jazz, rock or custom, And then we got details with 7 channels with sliders to customize, plus 3D option, bass, clarity and concert hall, and these extras like Sound Alive Plus to recreate the effect of rich surround sound, tube amp that simulates the soft timbre of a tube amplifier, and adapt sound that customizes the headphone experience. Okay, so now with that out of the way, let's see if we missed anything. A lot of options here, so okay, play speed, music auto off and smart volume are also checked, Sound Alive is also checked, and now let's go to normal, back, and actually listen to a tune. Okay, so the conclusion, the volume is quite loud, the sound is clear and crisp, we got a good bass, and this tablet is actually able to cover up a conversation in a room, which is always good. It's actually one of the loudest tablets I've ever tested, especially with this diagonal, and we have proof for that. As usual, we did a test with our decibel meter, and let's see what came out. Okay, so this is the decibel meter that showed us 83.8 decibels at the front and the back. As a coincidence, this is the same value as the iPhone 6 Plus, and that's certainly no slouch. We beat the Xiaomi Mi Pad with its 83.3 decibels and the Asus Transformer Book T100 with its 83.2 decibels. Another model beaten is the Asus ZenPad S 8.0, 79.3 decibels. However, there are louder tablets out there. For example, the Nokia N1 scores 89.8 decibels and the Galaxy Tab A 9.7, 87.6 decibels. Finally, the iPad Air 2, 86.3 decibels. So overall, I find that the acoustics are quite good in spite of these readings, and since it can cover up a conversation, they're good. Now the screen, as you can see, it's brilliant, and right now we're at about 50% brightness. It gets much brighter than that. It's a 9.7-inch Super AMOLED with 2048 over 1536 pixels, and it's below the resolution of the predecessor. Actually, that one offered a resolution of 2500 over 1600 pixels, so the resolution has dropped. This time we're using the 4:3 aspect ratio instead of 16:10 like the predecessor. The pixel density is 264 ppi, and in case you're wondering about the 4:3 aspect, this is easier to read on if you want to read magazines or books. However, it's not as good when it comes to video playback because of the lack of the famous 16:10 or 16:9. The video player goes like this, you know it already, options including share, search or SotPy. And now let's see our usual test video. Okay, options here. We got editing, sharing, play speed, subtitles, and you can also set up the aspect ratio as I'm doing right now, and use the pop-up player feature, allowing you to move the video around, resize it, and maybe do something else while you're watching it. As you can see, that movement from the full video to a smaller video is seamless. You can also zoom in, as I'm doing right now. Okay, now the actual experience offers us fantastic colors, very vivid image. It's like the image really pops up from the screen, typical for a Super AMOLED. It's a bright screen with perfect blacks, great contrast and wide viewing angles. It also behaves perfectly in full sunlight and doesn't suffer from reflectivity. Now, as far as the pixels go, we also have a microscope, and the microscope showed us this setup. This pixel setup is basically RGB stripe pixel with a blue pixel that has 2 subpixels, one green, one red. This is the same pixel configuration as the one of the Galaxy Note 2 and the handset called the AllView P8 Energy that we've tested. And now the brightness. Our lux meter has shown a value of 460 lux, which is simply great. We beat the iPad Air 2 with its 354 lux, Galaxy Tab S 8.4 with its 432 lux, and the Galaxy Tab A 9.7 with its 402 lux. Still, we scored below the champion, which is the Nexus 7 2013 with its impressive 500 lux. This remains an excellent screen with vivid colors popping out and these special options. We got brightness with an auto mode, and we got font options, both style and size, screen timeout, smart stay, keeping the device on as long as you look at it, and screen mode with an adaptive display that adapts to a certain situation or app, AMOLED cinema, oversaturated, AMOLED photo more realistic, basic, slightly bland, and reading mode that adapts to a proper reading experience with a more gentle white for your eyes. So overall an excellent screen and really nothing to object about. Now it's time to talk about the camera. So at the back there's this slightly protruding 8 megapixel shooter that has a sensor measuring 1/4 of an inch. It also has 1.12 micron pixels and f1.9 aperture. At the front there is a 2.1 megapixel camera with f2.2 aperture, and as you can see the camera app opens reasonably fast, and we got this subject here, this castle, used to show you the camera's options. Obviously you aren't going to take pictures with a 10 megapixel tablet, but if you don't have anything other near you, a smartphone or camera, it should do. So on the left side of the UI we got the effects with more to download if need be, quite a few to download actually, a lot of them. Okay, other than that we got the timer of 2 seconds, 5 seconds or 10 seconds, and the settings that include the picture size. It can be 8 megapixels in 4:3, 6 megapixels in 16:9, or 6 megapixels in 1:1 or lower. Video capture can be QHD, Full HD, HD or VGA, with the QHD mode disabling video effects and video stabilization. Of course you can have video stabilization, obviously digital stabilization. We got the view mode here, full screen or standard, grid lines, location tags, and that's about it. Other than that, we have on the left side, on the right side, the gallery shortcut, the video capture button, camera shutter, front camera shortcut, and the main capture modes. There's auto, pro, panorama, virtual shot, HDR, shot and more, dual camera, and even more to download, the usual ones, sound and shot, sports shot, and the beauty face, plus the rear cam selfie. If you activate the front camera, as you can see right here, we got a beauty slider that can make you more beautiful and disable your wrinkles, remove your wrinkles and things like that. And modes include selfie and interval shot, so that's about it. Now as far as the actual experience goes, we got a pretty fast focus, as you can see right here. I'm changing the focus right now. Reasonably fluid zoom in, that can go up to 4x, and when you tap the screen you should see this exposure slider that should help you with your picture taking. Okay, speaking of picture taking, just taken this shot, let's check it out. As you can see it's quite clear, although there's a bit of an artificial thing going on. I'll cover that in a minute. And in the meantime, if you keep the screen pressed, you should trigger that autofocus, auto exposure lock, and that's about it. Time to go to the gallery. Usually one does not test the camera in such an extensive manner. Well, we did. So I have to say that a few people take pictures with their tablets, of course, especially if they're big ones, and we got clean images, good colors. However, the selfie looks pretty much okay. However, if you try to zoom in, you'll notice a bit of blur that cannot be seen on this screen, but if you transfer the picture over to your PC, you'll notice the blur, especially in landscape shots, not in close-ups. So once again, good colors. The selfie is decent, doesn't compare to the one of a phone. Okay clarity, pretty good panorama. Resolution of 8368 over 976 pixels, good clarity, no artifacts, and fast picture taking. Okay, some more colors. Once more, a bit of a blur here. It has a tendency to shoot the foreground clearly and make the background a bit blurry. And if you zoom in, you'll register some detail loss. Here, for example, we got a pretty artificial feeling for this picture, and we had to try 2 times before we got a clear shot of this close-up. Exposure is okay, white balance is okay, but too much blur generally. The colors are pretty good, and we also took an HDR, so a regular shot if I'm not mistaken, and HDR shot you can see right here. It makes the image a bit brighter but also even more artificial. I remember that I used the Galaxy Tab S 8.4 to take pictures in full daylight and I was very impressed by its 8 megapixel camera. Also the iPad Air 2 has an excellent camera, so this one with its several blurry shots does not impress me very much. If you want to do some shots like selfies or random photo shots for your Facebook, that's okay, but nothing more than that. Other than that, we also took two videos, Full HD, MP4, 30 frames per second and 17 mega per second bitrate. Video number 1. Colors are okay, there's a bit of a motion blur going on, exposure is also pretty good. It could be clearer, but in the end it's just a tablet. One thing that's important to mention when you're viewing this gallery and these videos, it was a very cloudy November day. And then the second video, also on the same cloudy day in an even cloudier area. Okay, so this video is reasonably clear, has good acoustics, and it's overall okay for the tablet when it comes to exposure and white balance. I enjoy the fact that there is no focus loss, it's decent clarity and pretty good colors. Okay, so we proceed further, we're done with the camera. I would have to say it's decent for a tablet, but it's below the quality of the iPad Air 1, iPad Air 2 and the Galaxy Tab S models. If you intend to do a bit of editing, we got you covered. We got the auto adjust, rotate, crop, photo editor and collage. Photo editor goes like this, with options like adjustment, tone, effects and drawing. If you want to do video editing, we also have you covered, editor, and you can add trim, effect, audio or access the special video editor. We're totally done with the camera now. I'm here to talk about the performance, which includes temperature. After playing the game Riptide GP2 for 15 minutes, we achieved a temperature of 32.5 degrees Celsius, so no, there is no overheating, which is always good news. Okay, time to test the web browser. That has me quite underwhelmed. So let's access Tablet News. Not loading very fast, as you can see. This tablet has a tendency of showing great text, so the text looks fantastic, you don't even have to zoom in, and the browsing is quite fluid, I have to say. Now as far as the keyboard goes, it's comfy, it's well spaced, it has a numeric row and options here for audio dictation, for handwriting. It understood that okay, so if you write tab, it should get it anyway close to it. Okay, and more input models here. We will have the clipboard if need be. Okay, and you can also set up the keyboard in various formats like floating or split, which comes in handy in the multitasking mode. So while the browser may not be very fast, the keyboard is pretty impressive, and guess what? It also has these arrows here to go between lines and rows of text easily. As far as the connectivity is concerned, there is an LTE version of this model. I'm playing with the Wi-Fi one here, in case you're wondering. Wi-Fi is fast, GPS located me fast as well. We got MIMO, we got MHL, so you can connect the tablet to your TV set and enjoy movies and games. However, there is no NFC and no infrared, which is a bit of a bummer, at least in my book. Now as far as the benchmarks go, I decided to compare the Tab S2 9.7 with the Tab A 9.7 from Samsung as well, with the iPad Air 2 and with the Samsung Galaxy Tab S 8.4 from last year, so pretty interesting comparison. This model versus the Tab A versus the Tab S 8.4 and versus the iPad Air 2. It's actually a battle between the Exynos 5433 plus 3GB of RAM, the Snapdragon 410 plus 2GB of RAM, the Apple A8X plus 2GB of RAM, and the Exynos 5420 plus 3GB of RAM. Let's start off with Quadrant, with a score of 28,089 points. That beats the Galaxy Tab A 9.7's 13,000 points and also beats the Galaxy Tab S 8.4's 19,510 points. Next up, Antutu with a very good score, 53,143. It more than doubles the score of the Tab A that got to 22,353 points, but we got beaten by the iPad Air 2 and it's 62,302 points. Meanwhile, the model from last year, Samsung Galaxy Tab S, had 32,013 points. Nanomark in the house as well, with 59.6 frames per second. The Galaxy Tab A had 56.5 frames per second, and the Galaxy Tab S 8.4 59 frames per second. A very impressive score on Velamo in the HTML test, 3759, very impressive. The Galaxy Tab A had 2003 points, and the Galaxy Tab S 8.4 2463 points. 3D Mark is here as well, with a score of 17,228. Huge gap between this and the Galaxy Tab A that has 4,402, while the iPad Air 2 has 21,763 points, and the Galaxy Tab S 8.4 13,346 points. Geekbench 3 gave us a score of 1254 in the single core test and 4390 in the multi-core test. Galaxy Tab A 471 over 1433, and iPad Air 2 1817 over 4533, so it beat us. Finally, Galaxy Tab S 8.4 921 over 2739. Now we proceed to the other benchmarks, starting with GFX Bench. Here we scored 37 frames per second, while the Galaxy Tab A scored 3.7 frames per second, the iPad Air 2 58.6 frames per second, and the Galaxy Tab S 8.4 21.8 frames per second in the TRX off-screen 1080p test. Next up, we got the speed test via Wi-Fi, 26 Mbps in download, 27 in upload, Galaxy Tab A 19 and 19, iPad Air 2 21 and 20 Mbps, and finally Galaxy Tab S 8.4 29 and 27 Mbps, which is impressive. Browser mark is here as well, 2085 points, while the Galaxy Tab A 1202 points, and the iPad Air 2 3594, so quite a difference here. In SunSpider, the lower the better, we had 1059, while the Galaxy Tab A had 1240, and the iPad Air 2 294, so once again a big difference, and the Galaxy Tab S 8.4 1080, that's the result. Finally, base mark X 16,546, quite a difference from the Galaxy Tab A 4,056, iPad Air 2 42,163, and finally Galaxy Tab S 8.4 14,000. Overall, this model is able to win 3 out of 11 benchmarks, and it loses 7 out of 8 in front of the iPad Air 2. Meanwhile, it beats the Galaxy Tab S 8.4 in 10 out of 11 tests. Also in the meantime, this tablet does not have any lag, it has a very fluid user interface, no matter what you're doing, and the games run just fine. For example, Riptide GP2 and Lara Croft Go will run without a problem. Let's turn down the volume a bit. And I had a feeling while playing this game that this tablet is much more responsive than many other Android devices and even some iOS devices. So a very sensitive gyroscope and accelerometer, I guess. It responds to the commands in an excellent way. Of course, graphics look very nice. Excellent speed effect. The water looks fantastic. You can turn all the details all the way to the max. Nice water drops, and it all looks well. Okay, we're done with the gaming and benchmarks, we're happy with both. It's time to talk about the OS, UI and applications. As you can see, we're running Android 5.0.2, which is Lollipop, with the latest TouchWiz on top. It offers a flat, colorful and fluid user interface. The leftmost home screen is dedicated to Flipboard, as usual. Of course, it's optional in case you're not in the mood for it. And the widgets go something like this. They're typical for Samsung and they're quite useful. We got a picture frame, S Planner, bookmarks, OneDrive with a widget, Smart Manager that I actually relied on right here to clean up the memory, storage and cache, for example. Okay, now as far as the multitasking goes, we got this carousel thing going on here, but there's an extra level of multitasking with a split screen view. So for example, you can access Google Play and view a website at the same time, and you can also resize a window. You can make it smaller and floating on the screen, then you can open it up like this, and as I said before, change its size make it smaller or bigger, and move it around the screen. An extra layer of interaction in the multitasking mode is by having this one and this one. For example, start composing an email. By the way, check out the virtual keyboard's integration in this aspect. You can move it around. Anyway, let's see what I was talking about. So I can select a bit of text, press this button here, this one here, which will allow me to move content over here, at least in theory. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Usually it should work. Here we go, now it works and you get the idea. You can move pictures and text from one part of the split screen to the other, resize and move them around, and that's the gist of it. Now in the drop down area, we got the typical quick settings related to connectivity, screen mirroring, sound, and things like that. And we also have the brightness slider with the auto option available as Finder and Quick Connect. In the meantime, I want to show you a demo of the fingerprint scanner. Lock screen and security should be available here. Screen lock type, which can be activated with the fingertip. Okay, this time it worked. Okay, choose what to show content. Okay, and now let's see how fast and efficient it is. If I want to unlock, I cannot, but using the fingerprint I will much easily. Very accurate and very fast. However, the setup process is not exactly pain-free because it's a bit longer than on iOS. A good thing is that the password is more complex, the backup password. It's alphanumeric for starters, while Apple's it's only with figures. Okay, so let's go to settings and remove that screen lock type. Here we go again. And just swipe. Okay, we're done with that. It's time to check out the settings. In case you're wondering, the reason why the fingerprint scanner did not recognize my fingerprint is this one. After holding the tablet for a while, you'll have a mark in the middle of your finger, and that may be a problem with recognizing. So it's not the tablet's fault, just try to have a smooth finger when operating it. So in the settings area, you can find the usual connectivity options, sound and notifications, motions and gestures, like mute and palm swipe to capture, wallpaper, lock screen security, privacy, accessibility, language and input, accessories, and other things like that. Okay, it's time to check out the pre-installed apps on the tablet, and here we go. Luckily, we don't have bloatware, which is always good news. We got contacts, internet, gallery, camera, music, video, calculator, clock, my files, and memo. It's a memo taking application with categories, image, voice, and tasks integrated. And then we have Smart Manager that lets you get some extra juice from the battery. Clean your storage, RAM, and device security can also be triggered. We got S Planner, that's much more than a calendar. It includes weather, birthdays, reminders, and events, and things like that, with email and Facebook integration. We got email settings, site sync, letting you sync with your handset. Galaxy Apps, that's Samsung's very own application store. Getting new content each year, but basically the same content like the Play Store. Chrome, Maps, that manages to find us pretty fast, and it's very precise. Play Store, YouTube, the Google Suite, we got Google, Voicer, Gmail, Drive, Play Music, Photos, Hangouts, Google Settings, and the pre-installed Microsoft apps, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Skype, and OneDrive, and finally Play Games. Now I want to show you this productivity suite. I'm going to start off with Word. And here we go, a few templates. I'm going to opt for this cute otter. As you can see, we have a ton of options to play with related to subtitles and font colors, font types, bullets, numbering, alignment, paragraphs, styles. So a lot of stuff to tweak here. Obviously bold, italic, and underline are here. You can quickly select text like this and select all, cut, copy, insert stuff, picture, shapes, text box or link or a comment, change the layout, review, and of course you can work cooperatively with your friends via OneDrive, so that's always good news. Okay, then there's Excel, also very intuitive, with a few options here like pie charts and the usual series of tables, cell styles, number format. Not very good with Excel, but you get the gist of it. If you have a keyboard in the mix, you'll be doing work in no time, and everything is very intuitive. And now we have arrived at the end of the review. It's time for the pros and cons related to this slate. And on the pro side, it's a very comfy 9.7-inch device. It has an okay battery, but not on par with the predecessor, remember that. However, it beats the iPad Air 2 from what I remember. It's a loud tablet with a bright screen with very crisp images and excellent colors. It also doesn't suffer from lag or overheating. It also doesn't have bloatware, and it's good for productivity and e-reading. On the bad side, so those were the pros. On the cons, the charging is quite long. The 4:3 aspect is not ideal for video watching. The camera is below the iPads and the predecessors. There's no NFC, there's no infrared, and the benchmarks, well, a bit underwhelming, were still good, but quite a bit below the iPad Air 2. As you probably know, we don't give out grades anymore, we just give a final judgment for this slate. It should be a model that's one of the best, let's say 10 inchers right now with Android. If you want to buy a modern tablet, a compact tablet, with a diagonal close to 10 inches, you cannot go wrong with this one. Of course, that's it. If you want Android, if you want iOS, you have of course the iPad Air 2 or iPad Air 1 if you want to spend less, but if you want Android, this is your perfect option because it's actually the thinnest tablet in the world, 5.6 millimeters, also one of the lightest. It's great for reading, great for productivity, very bright, fantastic screen colors, and the only bad things in the end are the aspect ratio, but that's a subjective matter, the long charging, and the camera, and maybe the benchmarks. It's certainly the comfiest 10-inch tablet or 9.7-inch tablet I've ever handled, and that's got to count for something. I have to say that it's probably the most solid iPad Air 2 rival on the market right now. Also at $400, it's a must buy as long as the offer lasts. This is it from Tablet-News.com. This is the Samsung Galaxy Tab S2 9.7-inch version review.